The stories of great renowned brands within the transport industry often begin in the most unexpected places. A clear example of this is Pacific Trucks and Trailers, whose legacy emerged from three former employees of Hayes, another of the great Canadian truck manufacturers, who in May 1947 took the first steps of what was, at the time, one of the most prestigious heavy-duty truck manufacturing brands. Established on the wharf of the West Coast shipyards in the False Creek area of Vancouver, Claude Thick, Vic Barkley, and Mac Billingsley decided to embark on a new path towards success, manufacturing their first truck under the designation EMAD. Despite being an emerging company, this truck quickly found a buyer on the Canadian coast, 4,800 kilometers from the factory, which gave them the impetus to build a second truck, now with a Hercules DFXE5 diesel engine. With these sales, Pacific Trucks was able to quickly establish itself as a manufacturer of logging trucks and trailers for forestry companies and independent log haulers, securing bids for the development of low-bed platforms for the British Columbia government's Department of Highways. These small yet significant advances allowed the team to relocate to larger facilities on the east end of Vancouver. In turn, their expansion allowed them to secure the bid to manufacture a truck for the Vancouver Fire Department in 1948. Growth in the early years was exponential, to the extent that by before 1950, the company was already capable of producing all-terrain dump truck models with the full intention of directly competing in the market against the models offered by the Euclid brand, another of the enormous manufacturing companies at that time, who were already producing 3-axle models for 50-ton loads by then. Pacific Trucks' healthy growth allowed them to expand once more in 1953, in order to integrate many more specialized manufacturing departments, such as rolling mills. During this time, the workforce grew from just 11 members to more than 53 employees, although the company's production pace had to remain slow but steady, with at least one truck manufactured every 2 months. Just as their factories expanded, their reputation also began to reach new places. Surprisingly, one of the first countries interested in the Canadians' work was New Zealand, who imported 6 trucks for their Forest Service Department in 1954. During the following years, a couple of interesting things happened. Around 1960, the company tried to enter the lucrative market of cab-over-engine trucks. While that was the peak era for these models, Pacific only manufactured 4 trucks of this type, which left the factories between 1957 and 1962. Likewise, in those moments of innovation, the company even implemented Rolls-Royce diesel engines for its models, although interestingly, they never tried to introduce any gasoline-powered variant. The 1960s brought many positive changes and a new facelift. In addition to some aesthetic changes to their emblems and front design, the brand decided to retire its veteran E models to replace them with a new one line with the P designation, thus giving way to what was undoubtedly their best generation of heavy-duty trucks, debuting with the launch of the P9 model. It was not until 1963 that the true revolution within Pacific's factories began, with the manufacturing of the first I-beam truck. Originally equipped with a Cummins V8 903 engine, these trucks were as gigantic as they were innovative, implementing cutting-edge technologies such as an electric retarder and a water cooling system for the brakes. Initially, this unit emerged as a special order. However, a year after manufacturing the first model, it began to be commercialized under the designation P16. Notably, this model was not designed to break speed records, but to be capable of venturing into the most challenging forested terrains and emerging from them transporting up to 150 tons of timber. Its construction focused solely on 2 aspects: robustness and reliability. This is why its rigid chassis and reinforced mechanical construction have allowed these models to remain useful for log transport companies. The only major change in all these years has been its engine, as it is no longer up to the demanding work of today. Instead, engines such as the Detroit V12 twin-turbo or Caterpillar C15 are installed, with power exceeding 550 horsepower and 1,700 newton-meters of torque. This new super heavy-duty truck sparked the heyday of giant logging trucks in the dense Canadian and American forests, a trend that was primarily dominated by Pacific trucks and trailers. The high demand for these units forced them to make one last move. This time, the company decided to change its headquarters, which had become too small for its production level, purchasing 1.6 hectares of land, where they built a production plant of more than 4,400 square meters. These new facilities included a workshop, general offices, a repair service area, and a spare parts warehouse. The evident success of the Canadian company reached such a point that it began to attract the attention of large multinational conglomerates. As a result, in August 1970, Pacific Trucks was acquired by International Harvester, who purchased 100% of the shares with the aim of boosting its production much further, increasing it to around 30 units per month. It is worth noting that just 1 year later, the plant manufactured the brand's 500th truck. Even with this enormous growth, the brand was still a relatively small company, which allowed them to adapt all their products to the specific requirements of their clients in each order. This valuable quality also led them to achieve important milestones, such as when in August 1971 they received an invitation to bid for a series of trucks for the South Africa Railway. The idea was to produce trucks capable of transporting loads between 150 and 370 tons, generally materials for thermal power stations. After receiving approval in May 1972, by August of the same year the final plans had already been developed, completing the production of 4 units in November, which were shipped by boat to Johannesburg, South Africa, named as P12. The good reception and performance of these units led to 18 trucks being built and deployed, of which 5 were built with the nickname Ultra, as they were equipped with Cummins V12 engines that generated 800 horsepower, which was 200 more than the original model. Among the outstanding features of these units were their enormous radiators, as they were designed to operate in areas where temperatures could easily exceed 40 degrees Celsius. After several years of uninterrupted operation in South Africa, the P12s became a regular production unit, entering the catalog of only 4 models offered by Pacific Trucks in 1975. These 4 models were composed of 3 trucks for exclusive off-road use and a single model, known as the P510, which was multi-purpose. Due to this, the P510 became the highest produced model for the company during those years, given its versatility, which allowed it to adapt to even be used as a concrete mixer truck, among other functions. Thanks to this stability, the following years in the 1970s focused mainly on the evolution of their most commercial models, securing multiple special orders and exports to places like Swaziland, Tasmania, New Zealand, the Philippines, and India. Everything was going wonderfully until September 1981. The Canadian economic recession severely affected Pacific Trucks and Trailers production, forcing International Harvester to sell the company to a Singaporean conglomerate called Inchcape Berhad. This company's strategy was to supply trucks to expanding mining and logging companies in Malaysia, the Philippines, and Indonesia. One of the most bittersweet moments of that era was when, a year after its 40th anniversary and the manufacturing of its 2000th truck, Inchcape decided to outsource the manufacturing of all truck components, leaving Pacific solely responsible for assembling them. Pacific's decline worsened to such an extent that the dealerships in Vancouver, which were the most successful, went from having 30 trucks for sale in the early 1980s to having a maximum of only 2 trucks a couple of years later. The real reason why Pacific gradually ceased to be one of the brands with the greatest projection is, ironically, due to its own trucks. The issue is that the market for premium on-road trucks was drastically shrinking. Tare weight became one of the main problems, as most of the P510s of the time were almost 1.5 tons heavier than most trucks offered on the market at that time. Thus, the last new P16 truck was sold in 1989, while 2 years later the last 3 trucks of this model were manufactured in their plants. In October 1991, the plant manufactured its last production truck, closing and selling the property shortly after. Curiously, in 1995, a client from a mining company in Idaho called to request a Pacific P12, with the intention of transporting triple dump trailers with a capacity of 250 tons. Despite having closed its factories, Pacific took the order due to the insistence, but only with an upfront payment of the total cost, building the unit in one of its spare parts warehouses. The traces of Pacific trucks and trailers have led to 2002, since the company Coast Powertrain bought all the rights, plans, and templates of the trucks, in order to operate as a specialized workshop in the reconstruction of trucks and in the manufacturing of OEM parts for them. During its 48 years of operation, Pacific exported 23 trucks to South Africa and 90 units to New Zealand, including transport trucks and special service units such as fire trucks, reaching the incredible production figure of 2,308 units, some of which may still be in service today. In each of these heavy vehicles, not only countless hours of hard work between design and manufacturing itself were spent, but also a piece of history of a company that emerged as the dream of 3 employees to become a world reference in its niche. Although sadly the evolution of an increasingly demanding industry was the cause of its decline and subsequent closure, its legacy will endure in the heart of the Canadian forests.